Well, we thought Kentucky was done adding to their incredibly loaded roster, and yet they've brought on yet another high-profile freshman into the fray.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we are going to be discussing Kentucky basketball's latest commitment. Braydon Hawthorne ends up choosing the Cats over West Virginia. Big-time prospect here, a high riser over these last several months, has taken some visits to some big-time schools after decommitting from the Mountaineers, and of course, he chooses Kentucky in the end. Thank you guys so much for tuning in here on today's episode of the show. If you're watching the show live on YouTube, would really appreciate it if you dropped a like. Let me know what you think about this commitment in the comments below. We'll get to you here as we are, again, live on YouTube. If you're listening on postcast on podcast, would love it if you subscribe there as well. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. So we talked about Braydon Hawthorne on yesterday's show. Spent like the first half of the show talking about Braydon Hawthorne, what we knew about him, the latest developments on his recruitment. We've already discussed him on the show, but it felt like coming into yesterday, it was more of a formality because maybe some other schools had some more traction. Maybe some other schools were going to, or had positioned themselves, I should say, to get a commitment from him over somebody like Kentucky, West Virginia, Duke, Virginia Tech, and Pitt apparently were in here as well. It felt like Kentucky had kind of stumbled out of the race weeks back, and then we hear leading up to his commitment here today over the last several days, like, hey, actually, Kentucky's not out of this, they're not out of this, they're not out of this. You're going to see the Wildcats be a major factor here as it comes down to the wire, and then you start to see even Hawthorne himself tweeting out, look, I've not even told anybody where I'm going to commit. I've not even told my parents. And here we are now, and all of a sudden, this kid's a Wildcat. Yesterday, I was incredibly skeptical on my show as to whether or not he was actually going to even commit to Kentucky despite the news, and I think a lot of people share the same sentiment. At least a lot of the people that I've been talking to is like, yeah, I don't really know if I buy into the fact that Kentucky's actually going to get this kid in the end. Maybe he goes back to West Virginia. Maybe he goes somewhere else. According to people like Trilly Donovan, Kentucky didn't even have the highest NIL offer on the table. We didn't even have the most money to give this kid. So, with all that being said, we don't really know what exactly happened over the course of the last several weeks, but what we do know is that Braydon Hawthorne, a 6'8", 175-pound small forward, top 35 overall prospect according to the 24/7 Sports Raw player ratings, is officially a Kentucky Wildcat. And the thing that you like about him the most, I think, is his long-term development. This is a kid that's going to have to stay on roster at least at least 2 seasons before I think we see what he's fully capable of, and what he could develop into is a very interesting conversation to have. So we've seen the different various, I think that you're going to find Kentucky trying to put weight on this kid and then trying to mold him into that type player. Also, OBS just said it disconnected, so hopefully the live stream is still going. If it's not, you guys let me know in the comments. But yeah, Hawthorne, I think, is going to, that's his ceiling, is a Brandon Ingram type, rangy, lanky, spot-up shooter that can get you buckets at the 3. It's also interesting because if you want to read into like how this kid developed, like, first of all, again, he's a high riser. This kid was a nobody just a few months ago in terms of what recruiting rankings were thinking of him. Had very little offers, and the ones that he did were mid-majors, decent ones at best, and he started to rise. He went from a 3-star to a 4-star. He was initially a guard. He initially played guard, and this was a kid that just grew, and like all of a sudden just shot up, and is now 6'8", 6'9", according to some sources. The kid's tall, and he's kind of moved down to that wing spot. So there's a lot that could be happening here with Hawthorne in terms of what he molds himself into. I don't know if you're necessarily thinking like Tyrese Halliburton in terms of shooting and playmaking and kind of being just a taller, rangier type dude. If he can handle the ball as well as Tyrese can, then maybe you can have that conversation. But I really do like this commitment for Kentucky, especially if, again, go back to what I said a minute ago, if he is a long-term development plan. If you can get him into this system, get him here at least 2 years, and then you look ahead and maybe in year 2 or in year 3 and say, okay, this is a legitimate NBA caliber player because of what he's been able to do in the offseason and then also during his sparing the minutes that he gets sparingly on the court. So I'm excited about this pickup. I think this kid has a lot of potential. He's got a very, very, very high ceiling. It's just right now, there are some steps that he needs to take to kind of at least try and touch that ceiling or break through it, I guess, so to speak. So I think this is good. It also adds on to Kentucky's freshman recruiting class, which had gotten a little thin after Caden Lewis decommitted. You now have four different four-stars here in Jasper Johnson, Malachi Marino, and Braydon Hawthorne, at least according to 24/7 Sports. Jasper is a 5-star according to other services, and Marino is a 5-star, at least according to one. I think the number one overall center, at least according to one recruiting source out there. So this is a good pickup. It boosts your numbers, and then long-term, I think you're going to be able to get a lot out of a kid like Hawthorne. So we'll continue to break this one down. We'll get to the live chat here in just a moment. Before we do it, though, I'll tell you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs right now are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. We got the Thunder and the Timberwolves actually coming up here in just a little bit. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action, and FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game, both before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. You can head to FanDuel right now and place your first $5 bet. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up because if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Maybe you want to lay a little something on the Timberwolves and the Thunder later tonight. Does OKC get it done, or does the Wolves, does the Wolf defense come in and just smother Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and OKC? As Kentucky fans, I would like to assume you would think that that's not going to happen. So, hey, if you feel strongly about it, go to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet. Again, if it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, continuing along here on the Tuesday edition, this live stream edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. Really appreciate you guys checking out the show today. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel or the podcast feed, if you're watching this here live on YouTube or if you're listening to this postcast, would love it if you did. So let me know what you think about this in the comments below, and we'll get to those comments here now as we are talking about the commitment of 4-star prospect Braydon Hawthorne. I do want to note, he is the 33rd overall player according to 24/7 Sports, but according to the composite ratings, he is the 101st overall player. It's just because of how highly, or I guess 24/7 has thought of Hawthorne as he's risen in the rankings here over these last several months. So that's something to note. Let's see. Great Kentuckian says, I think he's just responding to somebody else here in the chat. Always stock only rises if he can make threes, especially if he's open for an opportunity. If he wants to be a lottery pick next draft, he has to make those shots. And I think Comp AW said, so how's always NBA stock going to rise if he comes back to Kentucky? I don't think it's going to, let me say this. I don't know if it's necessarily going to rise significantly, and a lot of it has to do with what Great Kentuckian is saying there. Can he make threes? And I'm not necessarily even asking him to I'm not asking him to just make threes. I'm asking him to be able to create shots from beyond the arc, off of the dribble, instead of being in catch and shoot and spot up situations. I need him to be able to create a little bit for himself and to get that 3-point shot up quicker. There is no denying it. Owe has a very funky release, and it's a load up, and it takes a while to get the shot off. He needs to be able to go through that fluidly, but also quicker. He needs to speed his game up from beyond the perimeter in order to be a valuable asset in the NBA, whether that be as somebody coming off the bench or somebody that actually meaningfully contributes to a team as a starter or whatever it may be in the future. If he's going to be a late first-round pick next year, if he comes back this year, I'm saying, he has to be able to Kentucky to find ways to just to speed up his game, I think, from beyond the perimeter. Inside, he's perfectly fine. I think that he can be a bruiser, somebody that gets to the rim, finishes pretty well. He's got to be able to get that floater game going a little bit more consistently. I will say that, which you saw it at various points towards the end of last season where he was just able to take over, specifically twice against the Sooners. But I think it does have to do with, can he develop that aspect of his offense? And if he can, you're going to see his NBA stock rise. That's how he would have to do it at UK. And frankly, I think he'll have the chance to do that at Kentucky. As we've previously stated on the show, I think his environment is going to be significantly better. I think that the players surrounding him are just going to make him look better in terms of the fact that we've got kids that can be more effective, driving to the rim, being more physical, maybe giving Kentucky some inside-out game instead of some outside-in game with your five-man being beyond the perimeter. I think Kentucky can be more versatile offensively is what I'm trying to say here. And OA, I think, is going to be a beneficiary of that. Mark Hinson says, we're going to have a really tall team, 2 7-footers, 6'11", 6'10", 6'9", 6'8", and 6'7", and then all of the guards, which also, you want to point out, Jalen Lowe is like 6'3", Colin Chandler 6'5", OA 6'5". This is a very tall team, and I was thinking about this before I went live, about just how tall Kentucky can be this season, but it's not just tall, it's also physical. Cam Williams, Mo Diabate, Jaden Quaintance. Look, these guys are ranging between 6'8" to 6'9" to 6'10", and all of them are extremely physical players, or at least have the ability to display that here at Kentucky. So I'm excited. It's not just height. It's actual physicality to go along with that length. And if you are able to apply yourself on the defensive end, Kentucky can be so much better than they were a season ago, even if the offense struggles from three just a little bit. And who knows? Maybe it struggles significantly. Maybe Kentucky on average shoots 34.5% or 33% from three next season, and they could still be a significantly improved team if their defense actually does take the leap that we expect it to. So height is really important, but also at the same time, I think that the muscle is also really awesome as well. Let's see here. Great Kentuckian says Timberwolves are getting game one. You know what? I don't have anything against the Thunder, so I'm kind of an unbiased participant here tonight. I'll take the Thunder. I'll take the Thunder tonight. I think the more I watch the Knicks, the more I do enjoy just how they are able to operate. I think they're a very fun team. Let's see. Michael Green Chili Chicken says, let's go. Welcome to Big Blue Nation, Mr. Hawthorne. And the thing about Hawthorne, man, is that you were able, I think Matt Jones tweeted about this, and I was going to say something similar on the live. So you were able to get a top 35 overall player to commit to being, Jones said, to the 14th spot on your roster. I think because of his talent and because of the what if factor of what does he do this offseason, I think I would probably have him a little higher in this rotation if I'm guessing. You got to be able to get the kid some minutes. I mean, it's a top 35 prospect that can shoot. There's so much potential here. You're thinking BI, you're thinking Tyrese. You could find yourself with not a hidden gem, but a legitimate gem. I don't know. I think that it is fascinating, though, that Kentucky did end up convincing this kid to come here to be a bench piece day one. Whereas I think some other places across the country, he could have walked in and been a significant contributor day one. So, PC Kapalot says this is the most excited I've been for a season in a long time. And I think a lot of people would share that sentiment. This is, right now, I mean, there's no other way to slice it. This is a national championship caliber roster. This is a team that can win the national championship. You have to be able to walk into the season and realize the expectations are real. Last season, with UK's roster, I think a lot of people were excited and expecting Kentucky to compete. But like if you watch the team for the first few weeks of the year, like after they lost to Clemson and everything, and after they lost to Ohio State, Like, and you ask somebody, like, is this team, like, really, like, are they capable of winning a national title? I think some people would have said no because of, like, some of the issues they have defensively and physically, and then also, obviously, after the Ole Miss game, like, this team can't win a title is what a lot of people would have told you because of, like, some of the deficiencies they have. I don't see those same deficiencies on this year's squad. And adding people like Hawthorne, I think, gives you more insurance in case things do go awry. The goal is to not throw him into the fire and expect him to be incredible, but obviously, like, this is a 12th to 14th man on your rotation. Kentucky's got so much depth, and they're so strong, it looks like on paper, in the areas that they struggled in last season, that it's hard to envision. Well, it's not hard to envision. You can envision anything in college basketball. It's college basketball. It's extremely volatile. It's difficult to navigate to why this Kentucky team is on the same level as last year's. If anything, this season is an improvement, and so therefore I think the expectations are even more real, is what I'm trying to say. The national title aspirations of Mark Pope last season were appreciated. I really like his energy. I think he's a great coach. I think he's an incredible human being. I will wrap up the show talking a little bit about London. But, man, the national title aspirations of him and the staff and this team this year, I think they're very much so real. Very much so real. Let's see. Let's see. Maryland says, I remember when Cal played two squads and it was lethal. If Pope has enough for two squads, it will be rocking. Every single time I've mentioned the possibility of having a platoon on this show, everyone in the comments acts like I have committed a crime. But I think it is a fair question to ask, knowing how Pope likes to play his rotations. I've said it on lives before. Pope runs a glorified platoon system. He jerks kids in and out of the lineup and kind of like hockey subs people in at times. Do you see that with this year's team? If Otega Owe comes back, you've got enough depth on your bench to throw out another 5 and for the game to be, I think, different, but also for that lineup to be just as effective. I don't know. I think it is a very interesting question, Maryland. It was lethal when Cal did it, and I think we more than enough have more than enough to do it again. But we'll see. Let's see. Do you think we'll be best in the SEC? PC Kapalot says on paper right now. Yeah, I would pick. I said this after Aberdeen committed, I think, and I'll say it again. Right now, and I talked about this with Andy Patton on this show, right now on paper, Kentucky is the team to beat in the SEC in my mind. You've got your Auburns of the world, you've got your Alabamas, you've got your Tennessees. Florida is loaded again. They got Boogie Flan today, which is great for them. I'd take this UK team over them. I would. I think Kentucky right now should be the favorite to win this conference, in my opinion. Do you think we'll get another commit after this? I don't. Odd Future says, what does the starting lineup look like now? I don't think it changes per se. And of course, I say that not knowing what it will look like, but I'm saying like the addition of Hawthorne does not change what the lineup will look like in the future. I've come on this show and said I think it would make sense to start Garrison and Acquaintance together if Garrison does develop a little bit more as a shooter this offseason. We've had some people in the comments lay some bets down on Venmo for that. So we'll see what happens. I mean, to feel that strongly about it is interesting, but we'll see. We'll see. There's a lot of different things Kentucky could do with this. But I don't I don't think we can sit here today, May 20th, and say, like, hey, we know this is exactly what it's going to look like. Now, we can have our opinions, but I don't know. Let's see. Maryland asked, do you think 3 would be a bit much? Like 3 different platoons? A triplatoon, as they say. Yes. You would have to have the House pass whatever settlement they're going through right now to like get the scholarship limit up to 15. And even then, I don't think Kentucky has the depth to truly do that. Frankly, I don't think any team in the nation is going to have the depth to truly do that this year, at the very least. Who knows? Maybe it happens in the future, but I don't know. 3 would be a little too much, but 2 is very much so on the table. Your starting 5 can change. You never know who may get hot or not. Maybe that's how Kentucky approaches it this year. Maybe we're thinking about this all wrong. Maybe it is a momentum thing where we're just looking up halfway through the season. We've tried 4 or 5 different starting lineups, and all of them have been effective in various spots. Who knows? I don't know. Braylon is from Huntington, West Virginia, same place Patrick Patterson is from. Small place, people talk, family, etc. That's actually pretty sweet. I didn't know that Patterson was from Huntington. Also, it's fun to point out, Hawthorne actually said that he has been a Kentucky fan his whole life there in West Virginia, which makes sense. But this is yet another maybe we're overthinking the NIL and the freshman waiting for a year or two aspect of this. Maybe it is truly he likes the program, he likes Pope, he's getting money to come play here, and he trusts Kentucky's development over anything. And it's more of just that, like, he wants to be here more than just like whatever NIL offer was thrown his way. I think that would be a really refreshing take if that were true. So let's see, anybody else in the chat here before we wrap up? I don't think so. So I think that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. If you've not subscribed to the YouTube channel or the podcast feed, would love it if you did so. Like the video if you have not already, by the way, and subscribe, of course. Again, that's going to do it. You can follow the show on Twitter at LockedOnUK. You can follow me on Twitter at LanceDawe_, and follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and God bless.